Existence for us.
All right, go live.
No.
All right, we are live. Hello and welcome to episode
Existence
number
for us.
30 of Cheat Code Radio.
No.
It's another week and more gaming news to talk about. We've got Jim Ryan departing PlayStation. We've got layoffs at Naughty Dog. We've got layoffs at Epic Games.
right.
We've
We
got
are
a
live.
ton
Hello and welcome to
of
episode number
different stuff. 30 of Cheat Code Radio. Am I getting echo? We're getting echo because of an open tab. There we go. All right, we got tons of stuff to talk about. So introducing the panel, as always, the intrepid, the mustachioed Anchorman V2. How's it going today, sir?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, now I shaved off the beard because we're gonna do it now as opposed to later. So it's like, yeah, it'll grow in before Christmas. We'll be good. So
See, this is just a secret sign that a Red Dead Redemption 2 remaster is coming to Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 consoles this holiday season.
jeez.
Somebody's got to tweet that. And also joining us again is the permanently grumpy Perfect Shogun. How's it going today, sir?
That's an accurate description. Yeah, I'm good,
That's
man.
the most accurate
Just out
description.
here. What?
That's the most accurate description.
Yeah, man, just out here enjoying my time, gaming, playing games, and rummaging these Twitter streets.
They do be streets, and there certainly be things to rummage.
Yeah.
So it's another week, and it's a bit of a weird week because we actually have a fair chunk of gaming news this week, and a big chunk happened today, and a big chunk happened early or late last week. So we'll get right into it with PlayStation's fearless leader, Jim Ryan, is going to be departing Sony after 28 years with the company. Jim Ryan took over as president and CEO of Sony Interactive in 2019 after starting with Sony Europe in 1994. In a press release released on Wednesday, Sony announced that Ryan will retire in March 2024, while Sony Group Corporation President and Chief Operating Officer Hiroki Totoki will take on the interim CEO role starting April 1st, 2024. Jim Ryan went on to say, after 30 years, I've made the decision to retire from SIE in March 2024. I've relished the opportunity to have a job I love in a very special company, working with great people and incredible partners. But I found it increasingly difficult to reconcile living in Europe and working in North America. I will leave having been privileged to work on products that have touched millions of lives across the world. PlayStation will always be part of my life. I feel more optimistic than ever about the future of SIE. It's important to note that he replaced John Codera as the president and CEO of Sony Interactive in 2019. And Ryan is most notoriously known for his large business successes of the PS4 in Europe. So, thoughts on Jim Ryan departing PlayStation? Who wants to field this one first?
I'll let Shogun go first because I think it's pretty obvious what I'm going to say.
Oh man, Jim Lion crying Ryan, man. You know, it's odd because it's been such a short tenure for him in this position. Regardless of how long he's been with PlayStation, he's been there for 30 years. So I mean, that's definitely no slouch and time wise, and it's he's still pretty young for retirement age. He's not there, but given the circumstances, I mean, if what he's saying is to be believed, uh traveling back and forth between America and Europe is probably a headache, but also, like, wasn't he the one that kind of led to the whole migrating of the headquarters to be in the US? Like, that was under his tenure, whether it was his decision or not. So that just seems kind of dumb. But whatever. That's neither here nor there. Fact of the matter is, that's just odd. I don't really necessarily buy that it's all just, it's my time to go. This is exhausting, blah blah blah. There's definitely more to it than that. And we will probably never know what all there is, but it's not like Sony PlayStation hasn't been fielding a lot of complaints from the hardcore fan base, or like they've necessarily had the best showing of games for the last couple years. And not necessarily that the games themselves weren't great, but some of them, I mean, it's just they've kind of been few and far between in the last couple years. And I mean, sure, no decision was made on the last just 2 years of whatever he's been doing there. But yeah, we'll never actually see the fruits of his labor while he's in that position. So that's going to be weird for the next person to follow him, if like all these games as a service games that he's kind of been the spearhead for fall by the wayside. Like, it's not going to reflect on him. His legacy is going to look good because of all the games greenlit before him that came out in his tenure and the success of the PS5 over the past few years. But I don't know. It's odd. I can't. It's weird to see him go. Phil Spencer's been in his position twice as long, and Xbox is doing the best that it's ever done. So, I mean, I don't know what you make of that. Like, Phil Spencer has seen PlayStation change hands twice since or I guess now 3 times since he's been the head of Xbox. So, if you want to compare apples to oranges, something don't smell right over at PlayStation.
I'll kind of piggyback on what you were talking about earlier. It's one of the things we're not going to see from Jim Ryan is what his legacy was until later. And even then, like I think what annoyed me was that people were like, "Oh, well, look, he look how well he did," and it's like, okay, let's look what he actually did, because a lot of the stuff is that whenever you're in charge, the first few years that you're there aren't you. You're just kind of riding out the wave of other stuff that's already been like queued up to go. At least in terms of game releases, like there's some things you're responsible for just outright, just completely. But all the games that came out so far this generation are sequels to games that were greenlit under Sean Layden, and for the most part were games that were greenlit by Sean Layden before they restructured. So I mean, we can't really give him any credit for any games right now. Now, like things like after this year, sure, there are probably things that he had, things that he greenlit years ago, because the average dev time for a game is anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So anything we see after this point for the next few years, sure, is probably something that he greenlit. But the games that we do know of, which are these live service games, are kind of iffy. So I think really what we're going to remember Jim Ryan for specifically is these are things that we can credit towards him. Acquisitions, because under Jim Ryan they made some big acquisitions, like specifically with Bungie, and then they also took off a Fire Sprite, and they also took on not like they didn't do Deviation Games, Nixxes, a couple others there. They're also going to be known for PC ports, even though these are things that may have been greenlit under there, but they really pushed for it, and like having a steady schedule of about 18 months on average between the PS5 release and the PC release. So normally pretty close there. And they're going to remember him for, well, trying to block the Activision Blizzard deal, because that they made themselves front and center in charge. He had testimony and they failed. So the other thing too I kind of want to point at specifically is just kind of like a timeline of events, because I mean this is clearly not so they got a last minute decision. The Sean Layden announcement was also actually down to the same week in 2019 as this, so that I thought that was an interesting timeline thing. But like just to give you an idea of like the last like 5 or 6 months, specifically we had the reveal of the PlayStation Showcase on May 24th, which all of those games are games greenlit under Jim Ryan specifically. Those are games that he was in charge of. He greenlit those titles, and people were saying this is the worst showcase in PlayStation history. So that's a bit odd. to say the least. Now, another thing here is that they have been very vocal about the FTC case, and so Microsoft beat the FTC in court, despite the Jim Ryan testimony on July 11th. And then August 30th, they announced the PlayStation Plus price increase. Then September 22nd, the CMA approved the ABK deal as the last holdout. And then on 9/25, they announced the Sony leak. Then 9/27, Jim Ryan announces retirement. And then as we're seeing now, we're getting more information, like bad news for PlayStation, like with the whole thing with Naughty Dog. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's a whole nother bit. And it all kind of feeds into this one aspect. So I don't think we actually heard anything about the PlayStation leak specifically in terms of like if they sold the content or not. But, and also they didn't release anything publicly from what I can tell. But hey, whatever it was, it seems to have kicked out all this negative news all of a sudden. So I would say if you're under Jim Ryan specifically, it was not a good look for the last 6 months.
Yeah, I think one of Jim Ryan's biggest challenges is that he's inherently not as charismatic as Sean Layden was. I think PlayStation has been very lucky with some of the people they've been able to put in front of the PlayStation brand. Like when you look at like Jack Tretton and Sean Layden, I think they had a certain candor, and it's the same kind of thing that Phil Spencer and Reggie from Nintendo kind of demanded. It's kind of a respect that people have for how they carried themselves and how they handled things, and a sense of responsibility when things didn't go right. Like when Nintendo did something wrong, Reggie would be like, "Oh, we didn't knock that out of the park." Phil Spencer's, taking his lumps, so to speak. Sean Layden did his fair share of lumps too, especially when it came to delaying games out of projected windows and everything else. He was quite upfront and honest and said, "Hey, this is a call we made. We want to provide better games, and that takes time, et cetera, et cetera." So I think he had big shoes to fill, and I don't necessarily think Jim Ryan had the personality to deliver that. And I think that kind of compounds the challenges that Jim Ryan faced as CEO of SIE. Because, yeah, the PlayStation 5 was pretty much a home run from the setup because of the success of the PlayStation 4. But there's been unique challenges that they've had to try to go through. And I don't think necessarily how he carried himself was the best representation of what Sony could do. People had a hard time getting PlayStation 5s out the gate. Everybody had supply chain issues. Everyone tried to deal with those the best they could. The price increases. Everybody's increasing prices on anything. Netflix is talking today about another price increase after they just did a price increase and they created a separate subscription tier. So I think necessarily it's hard because a lot of these CEOs are put in positions where they've got to try to deliver this news with a straight face. And I think Jim Ryan's refusal to be the face of those announcements kind of, pushed people away from his image, because there was a lot of celebration on the PlayStation side of the ball with the announcement that Jim Ryan was going.
Oh, yeah.
Because, let's face it, Sean Layden's legacy is your God of War 2018s, maybe not Days Gone, but that era of PlayStation 4,
Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon,
yeah,
these brand new AAA IPs that were greenlit by studios who we all thought were trash. That was the big thing too. It was Guerrilla making a good game? What?
Sir. The original Killzone slapped, okay?
All right, we ain't talking that was how long ago? Come on now.
Yes, but I'm just saying they did make
one good
game.
Know this is a "what have you done for me lately" kind of community.
Oh, absolutely. And let's face it, coming off of to go from Killzone Shadowfall to Horizon Zero Dawn is massive. And that's a complete 180 stylistically, delivery, everything. So, a massive respect for Guerrilla and what they did there. And I think Sean Layden definitely didn't have an easy go of it. I don't think, necessarily running the PS4 generation to the massive success it was easy. And I don't think necessarily what Jim Ryan had to do was necessarily easy either. I just think there might have been someone better equipped to guide their way through the current challenges that they are facing. I don't think Sony's facing any more of a variety of problems than, say, Microsoft or Nintendo. There's certain areas where they're challenged. There's been conversations this week about, with all these service games coming out, PlayStation's looking for their Fortnite, so to speak. What's their Fortnite? What's their GTA 6? Yes, we can keep making these AAA games, but those are taking longer and longer to make. They're getting more and more expensive. What's the long-term game plan? And it's funny because it's all coming back to what Sean Layden said in 2019 of the AAA market is unsustainable in the way it is, and we are bloating with service games right now. So while Jim Ryan may be departing, I think people that think PlayStation's going to do a 180 from Jim Ryan's vision for the company, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it'll be either set the course or it will go even more forward in the direction it's going. Unless of course they replace him with someone like Herman Hulst or a more creatively minded CEO.
Yeah, I really have no idea who they're going to pick for that to take over, but my mindset on it is, while Sean Layden took the advantage of, hey, we launched really strong with the PlayStation 4, and we're going to take this opportunity to be creative focused, I will say that somebody like Jim Ryan was going to take over because they needed to course correct, because the very fact that you still have PlayStation had this giant lead, and the fact that Microsoft makes a higher profit from Xbox than PlayStation does is insane. That is a genuinely insane concept, and it's because of these types of games of a service and subscription models that Microsoft has been able to leverage that. And so they needed to do something, and Sean Layden didn't really do much to help that, I will say that much. But he also gave them an identity that made PlayStation synonymous with quality.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say, like, that needed to happen to course correct a bit. But yeah, I have no idea who they would pick to fill that role, because whoever takes this position is not going to be envied.
No, absolutely not. And I think too, I see this conversation, this bubbles up every time there's any form of discourse around PlayStation. Everyone's like, oh, why is it always whenever something happens to PlayStation, people pull out the magnifying glass? It's kind of just goes hand in hand with being the market leader. If you look at coverage of Apple, it's, once again, anything fickle goes wrong with Apple in any degree, and people pull out the magnifying glass. The thing is when you're on top, everyone wants to know how you're going to fall. And right now, there's a lot of question marks about what the gaming industry is going to look like in the next 10 years. Is it going to be more subscription-based? Is it going to be kind of what Microsoft envisions the future to be? Or will the vision that PlayStation's kind of been pushing be... And I'm going to say Nintendo as well, because Nintendo really... They're like, hey, we just make our games and millions upon millions of people buy them. And that's how we make our money. And, like, I totally respect Nintendo for sticking to their business model and knowing that they can get subscription money out of people with corny N64 games. Like, I absolutely respect the hell out of Nintendo for that. They know their audience, and they know how to get money out of their audience. But I think it's interesting times ahead. I don't necessarily know if this is better or worse for PlayStation. From a PR sense, I think it gets better.
Oh, definitely. That part is not up for debate. I will say that with absolute certainty, because I mean, Jim Ryan was a walking gaff machine. Like, because even before he was head, this whole thing was, oh yeah, people don't want crossplay. People don't want that because we have to protect the children. Like, I will never ever forget that.
See,
but then also, what else did he say recently? It was like, when they got rid of Roe versus Wade here in the States about abortion protections. He does this completely tone deaf shit about like, oh yeah, I have cats, but I want to get a dog, and sends that to everybody, saying, all right, everybody, we're not gonna take a position. Bye. It's like, why? Why would you do this?
You know, and see, the thing is you quite often we see people stick their feet in their mouth in the long run. Like, how many times have you seen a Phil Spencer quote get turned around because he said something 7 years ago because he's been leading Xbox for way too long, right? You know, things turn around, you get your foot in your mouth, you wiggle your toes a bit sometimes. But like Jim Ryan's turnaround time on wiggling his toes is like 6 months usually. Because it's like, oh, well, no one wants to play old games, but here's backwards compatibility, and here's a whole tier of PlayStation Plus based off of, you know, playing old games. Okay, cool.
And it
Yeah.
costs way too much to get there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. I think PR wise, this will be better for them in the long run. Business wise, it's hard to predict what the market's going to be in 5-10 years. But we'll just have to wait and see. And you know, I think there's gonna be some studios that suffer because of this. We're actually gonna segue right into this right now, because I think that Jim Ryan's push for a service game may be damaging to some of PlayStation Studios creatively, and it kind of seems like that might be the case with Naughty Dog right now. So Kotaku released an article. I'm paraphrasing off the VGC article because I inherently do not give Kotaku clicks, whether they report stuff or not. Apparently, the PlayStation Studio Naughty Dog communicated layoffs internally last week, according to 2 sources familiar with the situation. According to the sources, at least 25 developers were part of the downsizing, and the cuts range from art to production, but the majority of those laid off worked in QA. Kotaku sources claim that no severance is being offered to those currently laid off, and that impacted developers as well as the remaining employees are being pressured to keep the news quiet. Full-time staff do not appear to have been part of the cuts, the report says. Sony did not immediately respond to Kotaku's request for comment. Apparently, as well, on top of this information, the multiplayer game, which many of us have been, you know, referring to as Factions, will not completely cancel, is basically on ice at this point. The Naughty Dog cuts would be the latest on widespread redundancies which have taken place across the games industry this year, as many companies made corrections on their post-pandemic expansions. But we'll roll into this one. Who wants to head this one up first? I'll offer it up to one of you two. Actually, Shogun took Jim Ryan first, so you can take Naughty Dog, Ivan.
Naughty Dog's always been a one-trick pony. I don't know why we expected them to be good at anything else. Like, really, I'm going to be honest. The whole thing with Naughty Dog is that they make really, really good single-player, third-person, action-adventure, heavily scripted set-piece games. That's what they do. And yeah, they dabbled in some multiplayer, some PvP multiplayer on occasion. But look, they haven't been great at that. I mean, look at the longevity of any of them. Like, the only reason those games have any longevity at any point is because the community is so starved for any third person, well, even not even third person, just any sort of multiplayer game from PlayStation that they will literally put anything and then give it a platform because they need something. So Naughty Dog, I have the same opinion of Arcane as well. We saw exactly what happened with Redfall. So it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get a studio that is known for making single player, narrative based experiences based on stealth, and we're gonna basically throw them and tell them to make something else. We should not be surprised that they weren't making a decent product. So on one hand, there's that. Also, everybody was saying like, oh no, Sony didn't give them severance. Guys, they're contractors. They are not entitled to severance. That's just how the United States works. If you're a 1099 contractor, you don't get paid for that. That is a non-starter to me, so I don't even bother thinking about that. So, but honestly, when it comes to Naughty Dog specifically in this situation, it sucks. But I mean, hey, there may be a reason why Jim Ryan was trying to leave all of a sudden. That's all I'm really thinking about. So
It is really weird that we get Jim Ryan leaving last week, and then of course this news this week again. Everything surrounding his departure is kind of off. But again, yes, thank you for pointing out that contractors don't get severance. I was gonna point that out because that's a weird thing to even highlight. Uh, just seems to be something to make it seem more damaging than what it really is. But I mean, when we heard news from this a few months back about basically Bungie putting the kibosh on whatever they had and needing to go back to the drawing board, and we heard that other people had moved on to other projects. The fact that they even had QA testers still on is fucking mind-boggling. Like, well, why were these people even still there? Because like nobody was. What were they working on? Literally, like we knew they were trying to reassess what the project was going to be, but like, I mean, do you need QA for that? Like that seems more like
depends on how far back they are.
I mean, it just seems like it's something your lead engine designer or whoever the fuck people like that should have been on. So I don't know. As far as the game itself being, I mean, we saw this coming. This is not really news. This is just more of a official confirmation of, um, basically again the news that we heard earlier that whatever it was, just wasn't going to be. And yeah, the idea that they were building out this thing, I mean, I don't know. Sony has a habit these days of abandoning things. So uh but
Just like PlayStation exclusive abandoned.
yes, like that's a joke. But I yeah, I don't know. It made it sound like it was going to be this huge open world. It seemed like they were trying to do the division, but with um The Last of Us, and I don't know. It's a lot making a live service game, and that's what people don't understand. They like I know they get crapped out a lot, but they also get canceled a lot. And sure, Bungie is the one kind of over at Sony right now, giving the approval of what is and what will stick. And I mean, the thing about Bungie is they just have really talented developers when it comes to gameplay in general, and that's going to definitely keep people coming back. One thing, the two things that Bungie has done well, and I mean, according to Marty O'Donnell, even in the beginning, I guess part of their advertising was from Activision. But the two things that Bungie does well is make a game that feels great to play and make really good trailers to show off how really poor content like really fun content to play. And it's the gameplay is fine. Gameplay is fire. It's everything else surrounding the gameplay that has kind of been lacking from Bungie lately, especially with Destiny, and also just the state of the actual game on a technical level recently has just kind of gotten to it's been deteriorating over time, and it's really come to a head here in recent weeks with the game in unplayable states and having major bugs. But all that said, I mean the idea of factions needing to be anything more than what an updated version of what Factions 1 was, because I played a little bit of that back in the day and it was cool. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't stick with it because I'm more into first person shooters, and I quickly went back to playing Halo online. I think Halo probably Reach at the time. But they just should have done that instead of trying to do this major expansion thing. And again, that's probably more in part to their whole games as a service push right now. But it's like with Xbox, you got just because you want to push something and there's something, whether it's something you're good at or something you're trying to get into, you still got to do the bread and butter. and not every game has to be a games as a service. And if you're trying to pack all of your main IPs into games as a service, it's going to water them down. It's going to divide the teams, and it's not going to necessarily be a great product. Make teams that are going to make great games as a service games, put them on those, and let everything else be what it is. Let The Last of Us be The Last of Us and be a single player adventure and move on. Let your foam stars be foam stars, but who knows how long foam stars is going to last? That's not even getting good, reviews or responses from people who played it over the beta period past weekend. So it's just not a good situation that they put themselves in, trying to pigeonhole factions into being whatever they were trying to make it out to be. And honestly, it was going to be if it had come out, it was probably going to be either dead in the water, or it was going to pop off pretty hot and then fizzle out really fast, because that's just not the thing that audience, the PlayStation audience, really gravitates towards. They have some really huge games as a service games on PlayStation, but they're all multi-class. They don't, that crowd is not, there's nothing that you're going to make for that crowd that's going to exist solely on PlayStation, and it's just be that. You're going to have PC in there. So if PC wasn't going to be there day one, it definitely wasn't going to be great for them. And it probably wasn't, because they're still on this whole, push it out to PC later mentality. And it's just like, you got to give it either day and date it, or don't do it at all. Because by the time it comes out, we've seen this multiple times. The games have tried to do that. Well, we're going to hit console later. No, you're not, because you're going to be dead. So, it's a terrible situation. And it's unfortunate for all those people who lost their jobs. And hopefully they can find work somewhere else where their talents can be better utilized. And best of luck in the future to them. As far as factions goes, it's never coming out.
I mean, it's gonna be a PlayStation Scalebound. That's what it is.
No, it's PlayStation's Abandoned, which is funny because they already had their Abandoned.
Yeah, so I mean, you can't. No, it's gonna be their Scalebound though. That's my thing. It's like it's gonna be the thing where they're gonna be like, "You teased us. It's not here anymore. Whatever."
No. It's Abandoned 2, Hassan's Boogaloo.
Oh my god.
No. So I think the most
Is that the joke? Is that the joke for everything that doesn't come out from PlayStation now? It's just Abandoned.
Yep. You see, the thing that kills me is, like, I was actually excited for this because, like, when they were like, we're thinking like the way they described it had me thinking it was like The Division, but in the world of The Last of Us. And I'm like, that sounds cool as hell. I would play the hell out of that. Like, that is immediately my vibe. Like, I don't want to do, like, arena PvP in third person in the world of The Last of Us. That's not interesting. I was inherently interested in the idea of, like, a Division style Last of Us game.
What if that the day after game was really what they were working on, and they just put it under a different name to see how people will react to it? Because that's what that game was anyway. It was The Division, but in the Last of Us world, in zombies.
That is, that's fair. But yeah, no, it's a really weird scenario, and I think it's what makes it even more weird is just like the whole Naughty Dog scenario where they've gone from like this crown jewel for PlayStation to now they just appear like they don't know what they're doing. Like you have excuse me, Last of Us Part 2, which divided its fan base. I liked The Last of Us Part 2. I actually like Last of Us Part 2 better than the first one, because the original The Last of Us was just the road for people that couldn't read. Last of Us Part 2 actually had some interesting concepts to it. But what's kind of interesting is we've seen, Last of Us Part 2 got an update. We have a remaster of a remaster for The Last of Us. And we have rumors. I put heavy quotations around rumors because it's weird that we haven't seen anything yet of a director's cut for The Last of Us Part 2. And you hear Factions is on ice. So it makes you go, when's the next time we're going to see a Naughty Dog game then?
That's
because
fair.
like let's face it, they're not the fastest developers. They make good games, but they are not like the quickest snap out the door developers that PlayStation has.
Yeah, my question is, and really, honestly, this is what you were talking about earlier, Shogun, where we're like, nobody expected this game to be like super deep, but I mean, the mentality was like, look, if our fan base is willing to pay $60 to $70 for half of what you got before, I mean, why not? So, I mean, for them, I mean, I totally understand the mindset behind it. It's like, hey, if you can get more money for it, go get more money for it. But honestly, the only even then, like this is something that's going to haunt them forever if they don't actually release this thing, because people are going to say like, okay, like if you release The Last of Us Part 3 and it doesn't have multiplayer, like that, even just like a tacked on like PvP thing, just to like say, hey guys, we're sorry we didn't listen to you before, but here, like even then that looks bad. It's like you promised too much.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it could have inherently been an interesting idea. It makes me sad that it's been put on ice, because I do like to see a studio branch out and try it at least once. But like, I feel like since this failed, we're just gonna get Uncharted 5 or something. Like, I feel like they're gonna go straight back to basics and do something super predictable now, which sucks. But who knows? Maybe they'll rise from the ashes, and the factions get iced, and 3 years from now they come out with an amazing game like Sony Santa Monica did with God of War 2018. Who knows? Anything can happen in games development, but I definitely don't think we're seeing anything new from Naughty Dog for a while, to say the least.
Yeah.
But
yep. All right.
But Naughty Dog is, and also too, I see a lot of people being really weird about, well, they did pay severance. Ain't no contractor getting severance unless it's in your contract. And very few companies will put severance in your contract, because there ain't no way the company wants to pay more money to you after they get rid of you. No company's signing up for that.
Yeah.
Especially a U.S. company. I'm sorry. Like, we do severance. Like, you can get severance up here on a contractor basis in Canada, but y'all don't like having labor rights down there. So, like, contractors not getting severance is the least surprising thing in history, honestly. So moving right along, speaking of people that ultimately got, dicked around, Epic Games announced a pretty sizable layoff. So around 900 people are being laid off for Epic Games, which is 16% of its staff. This comes after a V-Bucks price hike as well. Job cuts were announced in a memo to staff from Epic CEO Tim Sweeney, in which he states that 2/3 of the layoffs are in teams outside of core development, an example, Fortnite and Unreal Engine. They sold Music Marketplace Bandcamp and web services from Super Awesome. Has acquired most of its coming back from Epic. Around 250 people are leaving Epic through its divestitures from Bandcamp and Super Awesome. Staff members of Fall Guys developer Mediatonic posted on social media claiming they had been affected by the layoffs. There was a rumor stating that Mediatonic had, in fact, had all its staff let go, but that was debunked. Tim Sweeney's memo reads, "For a while now, we've been spending way more money than we earn, investing in the next evolution of Epic and growing Fortnite as a metaverse-inspired ecosystem for creators. I had long been optimistic that we could power through this transition without layoffs, but in retrospect, I see that this was unrealistic. While Fortnite is starting to grow again, the growth is driven primarily by creator content with significant revenue sharing, and this is lower margin business than when we had when Fortnite Battle Royale took off and began funding our expansion. Success with the creator ecosystem is a great achievement, but it means a major structural change to our economics. Epic folks around the world have been making ongoing efforts to reduce costs, including moving to net zero hiring, cutting operating spend on things like marketing and events, but we still end up far short of financial sustainability. We conclude the layoffs are the only way, and doing them now and on this scale will stabilize our finances." So I'll start this one. How in the actual fuck do you own Unreal Engine and Fortnite and you can't make your fucking finances go the right way? Like, how incompetent are you as a leader of your company? How do you outspend the money you make off of Fortnite and Unreal Engine? That is not your employees' fault. That is incompetent leadership 101.
Mm-hmm.
How much money did Epic spend in court versus Apple? I want to legitimately know the numbers on that. How much money has Epic spent money hatting PC games unnecessarily onto the Epic Games Store because they're trying to be the good guy and fight against Steam's monopoly? I really dislike Tim Sweeney. He just comes across as super slimy, and every time, he has an opportunity to sound somewhat intelligent, he says the dumbest things imaginable. It wasn't included in this one, but he said that part of the reason for the layoffs was their focus on metaverse content and making everything a cohesive Unreal 5.0 experience. And I'm like, you're in a memo laying off employees and you can't stop using the marketing spin. Like, just shut the fuck up. Like, I
think part of it, like just kind of like piggybacking on what you were mentioning before, I think part of the problem especially is that they were expecting I can't say for certain because I don't work for Epic and I don't have any inside information on this, but I would say that it seems to me that they were anticipating the Apple deal to go in their favor, and then they would be able to like come back on to iOS and then also be able to launch a competitor on top of that and just be able to launch from there. I think that was actually a real part of their business strategy in hoping that was going to work. And unfortunately, that didn't work. So here we are right now, still waiting. And it's like, well, is this going to mean anything? Probably not. So, again, that's the problem that we're in here currently, is that they were planning on things that weren't going to work long term. So,
what kills me?
I would say the same thing is pretty much true for the whole Embracer Group situation. Like they had these major plans that they put together, and they thought were going to pan out to something, and then when it didn't go through, now they have to go back and look at, oh damn, we made all these investments, we got to cut back somewhere because we're not going to get our projected revenues and profits because we tried to put the cart before the horse. Now we're putting our foot in our mouth, and yeah, it's crazy. But before I really get too deep into that, uh, I want to say, Epic has always pretty much been bad at managing a lot of shit that they do. Like outside of Fortnite, Epic has not really managed anything well. And I'm a big proponent of that because of the whole Paragon situation. Paragon was like the only MOBA that I ever really got into, and once Fortnite Battle Royale started to take off for them, they said, "Well, we're having too much trouble fixing this game that we fucking broke in the first place, not listening to the community and what they told us. So we're just gonna drop it. We're just gonna get rid of it. It's not a thing that is not it's not a thing that we want to deal with anymore." And yeah, so now they got Fortnite, and then they also dropped Save the World mode for Fortnite because, again, just incompetent at managing what they're putting together. It's ridiculous. So this is really no surprise, and honestly not shocking after, like you said, giving away, like, how many games have they given away on the Epic Play Store or Epic Game Store? Just and there was that report that came out, the leak from that whole situation where they like, what they spend like what was it, like 500 million on some game to get it on there or something. I don't remember. It was outrageous numbers, amounts of money. Which, to be fair, The bigger issue with that is nobody wants to use the Epic Game Store apparently, just because PC guys are weird and they're just like, no, I'm sticking to Steam. I don't know how I don't know how you fanboy an app that has when there's the other app is there on the device you're using.
No, I understand what it is. It's the idea of having your library all in one place. You don't have to flip to something else and go get it. I understand. Lizard brain, go lizard brain. So I understand.
It's also too that Steam extremely spoils their user base in terms of features, and the Epic Game Store is the alternative of a mom and pop store in terms of features. I think a lot of PC players have a lot of issues with other stores because they're just not inherently as fleshed out as the store they are used to. Like that was the problem with Ubisoft Connect, the problem with EA, was it Origins, and that kind of stuff. It's just, if it doesn't work and it's buggy and it doesn't have the same features. Now that being said, like I've got like an 80 game library on the Epic Game Store because like they're like free games. I'm like, all right, give me them free games. I'll take them, but I'm not using your store. But yeah, it's definitely.
I was listening to another show today. I'm not going to name names because I ain't cross promoting nobody. But I was listening to another show today, and somebody wrote in on their show, their live show, and was like, "Yeah, I got like 200 something free games. I mean, I got like a library of 200 something games on Epic, and I've only paid for 12 of them." So like, they're just giving away money, and like, I get it. They're doing it as a way to pull people in, but man, you got to make something. And if you just spending and making nothing, like people thought Game Pass was doing, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, if you just spending money to giving all the way, and then giving extremely great and generous revenue shares to those games that when they did sell, I mean, what are you making? How are you sustaining? How are you supposed to grow and sustain that? It's generous, it's great, it's good in theory for the developers, it's great for the gamers, but at the same time, there's a triangle here, and if two pieces of the triangle are getting fed more than the other one, that other one's going to just become weary and dilapidated, and it's going to fall by the wayside, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And the thing is, too, is like, I inherently think that the problem that Epic has is the fact that it's Fortnite and Unreal Engine. That's all they've got. They've got no diversity in their library in terms of big successes. So if Fortnite starts to taper off, then what are they going to do? And they saw that. And we saw V-Bucks price increase. And I love the fact that they're like, oh, well, these creator deals are lucrative for us, but they cost us more. So I'm like, oh, so what you're saying is the creators that you're giving skins for and everything are leveraging the hell out of you and squeezing more money out of you than some of the licensed ones are. Interesting.
I didn't even hear about the price increase on V-Bucks. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like 15% roughly.
I mean, I will say they have been fairly like consumer friendly, in my opinion, compared to many others. Especially when you're talking about, I hate conversions. Like, just give me my money 1-to-1 if that's what I.
We all know you're talking about party animals. We already know what the deal is.
Yeah. I don't want to do all this math to try to figure out how much money I'm getting and need to spend this thing. Or you want to sell stuff at prices that means I can't just buy this one chunk and get it. I got to buy the one chunk and then buy a supplementary smaller chunk. Now I still got all this money left over. Just either that or just let me buy it straight out with my money. Why are we even doing?
Nah, see, I hate what I hate.
To be fair though.
Yeah.
To be fair though, when you buy their currency and then buy the stuff in game with their currency, that stuff transfers cross-platform if you do cross-platform, because anything you buy straight out in a store doesn't work that way. Like if you buy it, if you spend money on the newest Destiny expansion on Xbox, you don't get access to it on PlayStation or on PC. That it doesn't work that way. So in fairness, that is great, but just make the conversion simple. Like don't make it like Xbox learned this a long time ago when they got rid of. I don't even remember what it was called anymore.
Points.
Xbox points. Fucking
you know,
tragedy.
I used to hate it because I'd want to buy a digital game from the arcade, so I'd buy like 2,400 Microsoft points, and then you'd end up with an odd ass amount of points, and it'd be like, well, I guess I'm gonna buy an avatar item or something because I'm never gonna use this 150 points I've got sitting here.
Yeah.
Oh man, those were poor times. Yeah, no, I also hate those ones. Apex Legends used to forever piss me the hell off because the battle pass for that was just more than the base amount of currency you could buy. But it was like if you bought the next currency pack up, then you had an oddball amount of currency, so you couldn't get a full skin, but you could roll some loot stuff, and it was just. It's grimy. I hate that crap. Fortnite is super straightforward, and I appreciate that. I agree with you. They're not like anti-consumer. Like they're charging $20 for skins just like everyone else is, but while we'll give them credit for is the quality on their skins is bar none the best.
Yeah. I mean, I'm playing Fortnite right now. I'm gonna be honest. I'm playing around as Ash Williams and flipping between like Sigourney Weaver from Alien. I'm flipping back and forth, and it's nonsense, but they do some good work. I give them credit for that.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is like it fuck Tim Sweeney, but Fortnite's okay. It's the easiest way to put it, honestly. And actually, in interest of keeping with the layoffs. Terminated BioWare employees are actually suing BioWare right now. They announced this 2 hours ago from John Rinish, who was recently laid off from BioWare. So 7 employees with an average of 14 years at BioWare have refused to accept BioWare's lowball offers of severance as BioWare only offered 1 month's pay for laying off veterans of more than 14 years. They said, in light of numerous industry layoffs and the fact that BioWare's NDAs prevent us from showing any of our work on Dragon Age Dreadwolf in our portfolios, it provides a large gap in our portfolios, which makes finding work hard. Many of us have struggled to find work even with a long resume of successes. While we remain supportive of the game we work so hard on and of our colleagues continuing that work, we're struggling to understand why BioWare is shortchanging us in such a challenging time. R. Alex Kennedy's the counsel for the 7 employees says that even in cases where BioWare has contracts that discuss terminations, BioWare may have included illegal provisions. There are many situations where employers include termination provisions that are not enforced in the courts. And I think that we see that with this case too. BioWare attempted to reduce its obligation to these employees well below what the courts typically award, including by eliminating benefits from its termination pay that appears to be contrary to the Employment Standards Code. So to make this really, really simple, because this is in Canada, so I actually know this one. So after 5 years with a company, you're entitled to 1 month severance in pay. And then for every year you serve after that, you're entitled a minimum of a week. So if you did 14 years for a ballpark, yeah, you're talking like a few months pay at least. So BioWare is definitely trying to shortchange them. Probably wrote it into their contract, which is illegal. And it doesn't matter if you sign that contract under Canadian law, they have to honor it. You can't illegally put clauses to screw your workers over against standing law. So BioWare is likely going to get dragged through court by its former employees after firing 50 of them without cause. And that is the
if they were there.
That's the interesting part is BioWare did not lay off people. They simply serve people terminations without cause, which is good luck doing that up here. That don't work.
Yeah, if they were there for 14 years and they're entitled to at least 3 months by that metric. Jesus. Listen, I'm gonna be honest. I'm corporate shield on a lot of things, but like not paying people is not one of them. You can't just get rid of people who've been there that long. People who have that's pretty much built your company to be what it is, even though what it is a shell of itself now because of decisions you've made. But you can't just get rid of people like that and not pay them. Hell no. A month? A month? Hell no. Man, I'd be burning that building down. You talking about you giving me a month severance? Hell no. Yeah, they're out of pocket for that one. I don't even have no words.
Yeah, several main writers that worked on, for example, May Kirby worked on the original Dragon Age, Dragon Age 2, Inquisition, Star Wars The Old Republic. Also fired off 3 writers that worked on the original Knights of the Old Republic. So, like, you're talking people that have, like, 20 plus years tenure, and they're just like, nope, bye.
Yeah, so literally the people that built up BioWare. Hell no. Yeah, no, they gonna pay for this one.
Yeah.
This gonna be.
Or wasn't the people who really built up BioWare? Weren't they all? Didn't they all go to Stoic with Banner Saga?
Yeah, well, yeah, you had a bunch of people went to Stoic. A bunch of people went independent. Because like Drew Karpyshyn, who wrote God, what the BioWare games? He wrote all the Baldur's Gate games, a few others, Mass Effect and stuff. He made his own studio with a bunch of ex-BioWare heads. I'm actually pretty sure one of the co-founders of BioWare is working on that studio. It's Cloud4. We had like a year there where like 9 new studios were founded by co-founders of old studios, and almost,
yeah, I know. I was like, what?
And all those studio founders were BioWare ex-devs, I swear. But yeah, so my faith in BioWare continues to be rattled. Are you telling me they probably can't afford severance after Anthem? So I don't blame them inherently.
Anthem's still online.
It is actually. That's
It's so weird.
But they wouldn't invest in making a 2.0 version. Like, why? They should.
We're not gonna get Shogun going on Anthem because I know Shogun
about Anthem. Oh my god, I'm so pissed about that game, man.
See, the worst part about Anthem is they didn't let it die. They sat there and like, hey, look at this cool stuff we're gonna do in 2.0. This is our vision for 2.0. And then Mark Derrick comes out and goes, yeah, they canceled it. Sorry, guys.
Like, it's just I don't get it. Like, if you're gonna do games as a service, that was a perfect candidate to actually do games as a service.
Yep.
Like, literally. Like, I literally left Destiny. I stopped playing Destiny to go play Anthem. And I was like, hell yeah, this fucking game feels great. Flying's amazing. I'm Iron Man. And then they're like, yeah, but we don't know what we're doing. We're gonna drop it. Bruh.
All right.
We're used to disappointment.
Here it is. The last thing on docket. The 2 most unhinged tweets back to back.
Oh God. I already know what this is about.
So Kamiya, who has blocked 97% of the users on Twitter at this point, tweeted and revealed that he was departing Platinum Games. This led to a lot of questions in regards to the future of Platinum Games. Now, remember how I said there was an unhinged aspect to this? It's Kamiya. You know there's going to be something weird. This man posted up after announcing he was leaving the holiest pair of underwear and his legs while he was apparently tweeting on the throne, if you will, with absolutely no context.
None.
So, my first question to you guys is, do you think this is a bad sign for Platinum if Kamiya is jumping ship? And B, what do you think the cryptic message is behind his underwear?
Jesus.
Is this another teaser for Abandoned?
Was Kabaya really Hassan?
No. There was 2 holes in his underwear. That means it's Silent Hill 2.
Oh God.
Man. So the thing about Platinum is Platinum's always just been weird. Like it's either a hit or it's a major flop. It's never in between. Never in between with them. Either they knock it out or they fail hard. Uh I don't know which parts of those he were. All I know is it's whenever the founder of a studio leaves, it's always just like, man, that's never really a good sign. Either for them personally or for the brand. One of the two. Um and while you got to commend the man for being again the creative visionary that he is, and I don't saying that everything's a hit or a flop. That's fine with me personally. Like I really love when people go out of their way to take major swings and try to do something instead of just following the status quo, instead of being safe. Like being safe is always going to get you money, but it's not going to get you a lot of fanfare all the time. Um but man, I think Kamiya's gonna get with Shinji and they're gonna land at Xbox and make a new studio, and that's what's gonna happen from this. And then we're gonna get Scalebound.
Yay, Scalebound! I'm so glad I came back to Scalebound.
But yeah, he's
Inferno.
I was gonna
Kamiya's
say,
such a weirdo,
Inferno's
man.
listening. Inferno's 100% listening to this, 100% bricked up right now.
But yeah, Kamiya's a weirdo. Being the type of person, needlessly blocking everyone who tweets at you in English while you tweet in English is just by far the most unhinged fucking thing I've ever seen. It really is. Like that's like looking at the dude that goes to McDonald's and trying to fat shame him, but you saw him at McDonald's while you were ordering your McDonald's. What are we doing? What are we doing here, bro?
No. So the most unhinged thing I ever saw, there was an interview with Kamiya in 2012, 2013, somewhere in that time frame. And they're interviewing him, and he has an interpreter. And he talks over his interpreter. He starts talking in broken English over his interpreter to try to do the interview, and he keeps like hushing his interpreter. I'm gonna try and find the clip. It was an old interview. I think it was like an IGN interview, but like
maybe he's trying to pretend that he doesn't understand English, but he keeps forgetting that he's supposed to pretend. Like he's got like 2 personalities, and one doesn't want to understand English and one does.
I definitely
so the one
think
that does gets mad at the other one.
I definitely think he has 2 different personalities. I think that's accurate.
Oh no, that's for sure.
But yeah, no, it's funny because as much of a character as he is, his resume is impeccable in terms of the games he's worked on. Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, Beautiful Joe, Okami, and then all the games under Platinum. There's a lot of shift right now in the Japanese game market. We saw Tango Gameworks CEO and founder depart. We've seen there's a bunch of the old Sony Japan developers have come together to make a studio to work on a horror game. There's tons of really old school talent that's kind of divesting and leaving. Like even the creator of the Yakuza franchise isn't part of RGG anymore. Has his own studio with NetEase in China now. Like he has nothing to do with Yakuza in its current form. And I'm of 2 minds. I kind of agree with Shogun. I wonder if there's an Xbox deal that was slid Kamiya's way, because he was the one that kept bringing up Scalebound all the time. I'm wondering if they finally just bit the bullet and went, here, let's make something with Kamiya, or whatever the case may be. But I think the far more likely one is I feel like NetEase struck him a deal just like they did with the creator of Yakuza. They went, we're going to give you a crap load of money and you get to do whatever the hell you want. And financially, I do not think after Babylon's Fall and Bayonetta 3, Platinum is exactly flush in money right now.
Yeah.
So
honestly, I mean, I've actually met Kamaya, so he's definitely one of those types of people. Like in person, he is very quiet and doesn't say a lot, but yeah, he's a keyboard warrior. So, like, honestly, that's his whole personality, and I still don't think Xbox would work with him, even like without like at least a 50-foot pole between them. Like, say you are on such like the strictest possible setup. Like, I mean, that would be the only condition I can see them doing that in.
Yeah, because I think the biggest thing with Platinum is we don't exactly know what's wrong over there necessarily with their pipeline. Like, is it the creatives? Do they just not have enough developers? Like, what's going on with, like, what exactly is the problems that plague Platinum Games as a company? Because we only see end results, and like a lot of Japanese studios, we do not get a lot of insight to what goes on there. This isn't like the Naughty Dog report or anything else where we have leaks and, you know, peeks behind the walls, so to speak. Japanese studios seem very walled off still. We don't seem to hear a lot in regards to what goes on. And Platinum is definitely one of those studios that has had some really highs, but some really, really bad lows too. Like, I still can't believe Sony paid for marketing for Babylon's Fall. I still can't believe that to this day. Like,
that one's always going to be weird, man. Grand opening, grand closing, less than a year. Heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't know. Personally, I don't care about Kamai. I don't care where he goes. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of that weird situation where he's been in the industry long enough. He might just rest on his laurels and have a good time and just continue to block the remaining 3% of the population that he hasn't blocked yet.
I mean, he pretty much said he's got something else planned coming. So, I mean, look for something coming down the pipeline. Probably won't hear about it till next year, but he's definitely going on to work on something. So we'll know sooner or later. Then I guess I should say.
I also, like, without reading too much into it, inherently his tweets made it sound like it wasn't all his decision either. It came after a lot of consideration based on my own beliefs and was by no means an easy decision to make. However, I feel this outcome is for the best. So it sounds like there was either creative differences or they're like, hey, you have to unblock people on Twitter. And he was like, no, fuck you. I'm going to make my own new game with hookers and blackjack. And I can block anybody I want.
I don't know if it's like that, but I think a lot of it is just like the age of like the creative PR nightmare is over. Like, if you have this like attitude, that's not going to last anymore. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Didn't he brag about blocking his own company? Like, I swear I swear I saw that man tweeting that he blocked like the official Platinum account at one point. But yeah, no, he's a weird dude. Like the underwear thing, I'm just like, what are we doing? I'm like, how is the creator of Bayonetta not able to afford decent underwear? Like, I'm poor and I have better underwear than you. Like, what's going on here?
He's a weeb. That's why.
It's all about choices, Nick. That's all it is.
God damn. I guess you'll never know. You never know how many holes your heroes have in their underwear, I guess.
Frodo, you can't be on camera.
Any closing thoughts from you, gentlemen?
I don't know. Looking forward to playing Warhammer Dark Time on Xbox, which is just Shadow Drop.
Yep.
So that's fun.
Yeah.
Shout out to speaking of games as a service, shout out to 343 for properly handling Halo Infinite right now. They had a whole they had the whole vision when they first announced it of having their seasons and then having these events within the seasons, and they've managed, most of that, especially here in the last year since the whole shakeup. They've managed to handle those all pretty well. And one of my biggest pet peeves with how they do still have things structured is that they still have some playlists that rotate in and out, including ranked, which is just so bizarre to me. But me being the feudal Japan fanatic that I am, they've done the Tenrai event 3 times, and that was the first thing that they had. And this is the third time they brought it back a couple weeks ago, and it went 2 weeks and it just ended. But one of the things they did for this one was they took a bunch of older maps, and they never really specified it this way. They just said, "Hey, we got some Tenrai inspired maps," but they were all these like Japanese themed versions of other maps. Like one was uh the pit. One was this one map from Halo 5 that I don't recall the name of, but I played a few times. So it wasn't like all original maps, but they were just like these wooden and like Japanese themed maps that were really cool. And so they were all a part of this playlist that they had for this event. And it was all like you played this game type where you had just energy knives or energy swords and the grapple hook. So you're just slinging around, slicing people like ninjas. And so that event ended, but what they did was they took all of those maps and put them into this other playlist. This, I forget what they called it, some sort of custom or like casual arena playlist thing that they made. And so now those maps will still be able to live on and be played, even though that event's done. And so I assume they put the game type with them as well. Maybe not, but regardless of that, they're really making a lot of milestones with Halo Infinite from where it launched and the state that it launched in, with not being ready and having all these issues getting seasons to actually roll in 3 months. And this one's been 4 months, I believe, but nonetheless, it's still better than. I mean, hell, we had one that lasted 9 months. Like that was insane. Uh, but shout out to 343 and the work that they're doing over there. Again, games as a service is not easy, and everybody looks at everybody that has done it and done it well, and just being like, "Well, just copy their homework and change it." It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. Just the same way as like the whole server thing from last week. It just doesn't work like that. Like you can't go in and copy somebody else's work in this field, especially if you're not working on the same engines. So again, shout out to them and shout out to anybody that's doing a games as a service that's either running well or is not. I wish nothing but the best for you and your mental health, because I know dealing with communities is not easy. And as a huge Halo fan, the Halo community is one of the most disgusting things I've ever met in my entire life, and divided. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, that's basically all I got.
Right on. Yeah, I gotta find time. I gotta find time for Halo, but I just don't like who I become when I play Halo. I become a man that I refuse to believe exists still when I play Halo. I played 3. I remember playing through the campaign for review and just having an absolute blast. I was like, man, I never really liked Halo campaigns. I'm loving this. I can't wait to play multiplayer. I played 3 games of SWAT in Halo Infinite, and I swear on God, I developed new veins in the back of my neck from yelling. I was so mad. But yeah, it's good to see them find themselves back on track, and I feel like 343 gets an obscene amount of dogpiling on them for a model that there isn't necessarily a set roadmap to success, what works for as a roadmap for one game doesn't work as a roadmap for another game. And each service game has to find its own vibe and work its way through. Also, if you're in the market for some games this week, if you somehow don't have a game you're already stuck in, there is a ton of games coming to Xbox Game Pass. Gotham Knights, Lamplighters League dropped today. And coming also in this month is From Space, Like a Dragon Ishin, Forza Motorsport, and Warhammer Darktide. So tons and tons of stuff for you guys to play this week. So there's no friggin' reason you should be arguing with people on the internet on the weekend. And that will be what I close this podcast with. I deeply feel with every fiber of my being, if you are arguing with people that are not your friends on the internet on Saturdays or Sundays, you are inherently a loser and you need to go outside and touch grass. Okay? Argue with your friends on the weekend. I argue with these two and more on a regular basis on the weekend. That's healthy. Don't argue with random anime profile picture people on the internet on the weekend. It's bad for your mental health. You look like an idiot. And next time you go to send a stupid tweet, sit there and think, what would my mom think if I saw this? Because you know what? My mom reads my tweets, and I still tweet the way I do. So
my mom reads your tweets.
Man, I'm just trying to get Megan's mom to read my tweets. Anyways, that's been Cheat Code Radio, episode number 30. Shogun, if people wanted to find you and harass you, where could they find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I still don't know what my handle is. Perfect Shogun or perfect_Shogun. I don't know. And sometimes on Twitch, which is definitely twitch.tv, perfect/perfect_Shogun. And I might stream this weekend. We'll see. Definitely plan on streaming Darktide, so we'll see how that goes. That's gonna be fun. We got a squad for that. I don't know if y'all saw who I tagged y'all with, but
yes.
Okay.
I'm here for the chaos. It'll be chaotic. That's for damn sure. Battlefield was a joy, so I can't imagine what Warhammer's gonna be like. All right, oh wait, no, hold on. Anchor. Where do people want to find you?
Work for the most part. No. You guys can find me on pretty much every social media platform at AnchormanV2. Yeah, that's it. I'm straightforward.
Absolutely. I'm Nicholas. You can find me on Twitter at NicholasCCRadio. You can find all my written work at lordsofgaming.net. We have a Forza Motorsport review dropping tomorrow for embargo. I did not play it because I would give it a 1 out of 10 because I hate racing games. Funnily enough, I am writing the IGN review, though. No, I'm kidding. That's it, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll see you guys